This is TWiT.
Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. ACI Learning is a lifelong career training partner for audit, cybersecurity, and information technology professionals, transforming how employers train and professionals learn while following global standards for certification and career development training. See why ACI Learning is trusted and loved worldwide. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit to learn more. Apple has managed to save money without layoffs. We've talked about that before. Mark Gurman, in his newsletter, inside Apple's company-wide cost-cutting push to avoid layoffs. Now I'm thinking this is mostly propaganda to reassure the stock market. No, we're not laying people off, but we're doing all the cost-cutting you want us to do.
We're very responsible.
We're very responsible. Okay? So what are they doing? $30 billion a quarter. It's not like they're hurting. $165 billion in cash in the bank. It's not like they're hurting. Stock price up 20% this year. It's not like they're hurting, but they do want to cut costs because, well, everybody else is doing it. 5% drop in sales last quarter, maybe because of it. So bonuses are being delayed for corporate teams that previously received payouts twice a year. It's good to be the king. These teams are going to get the entire bonus once in October, which is what others in the company get. They're not going to give them less. They're just going to do it once instead of twice. They're going to.
Yeah, it's amazing. All of this stuff. It's like attrition and bonuses deferred but still paid out, and it is the gentlest. I mean, this is the truth. Is they've got. We talked about it last week. There was a little bit of a disparity. They've got about 60 billion in cash net. They actually have about 160 billion in cash, but they've also got some debt. So the net out is like 60 billion in cash. And they're doing fine and their sales are fine. So what do? It's like they could lay people off performatively, but I think that they don't want to, right? I do think that that's behind a lot of this is reassuring Wall Street that they're responsible with their money, all the tech sector. And so the layoffs, as gross as that is for people to lose their jobs from big companies that could keep them, but are going to sacrifice them on the altar of, look at us, we're being competitive and we're being responsible during an economic question mark period, right? Apple's in many ways, Mark Gurman's report here does Apple's job for it, right? Which is what it really wants to do is send everybody a message via Bloomberg.com saying, look how responsible we are. Also, look how great we are. We don't even need to lay people off. We're so responsible.
Mark,
and that's what's going on.
Good morning. Mark, I've got some news I'd like to share with you, but you didn't hear it from me.
I'm not saying they leaked this to Mark. I don't know that, but I will say this: it does what they want, which is to send that message out there.
Some projects, including new home devices like that HomePod with the screen we've been talking about, have been pushed back till next year at the earliest. This allows Apple to allocate its research and development budget to more pressing projects. This is the verbiage that Apple or whoever gave him, right?
And it feels very much like, I think a lot of us have been there if we've been in organizations. Sometimes an economic downturn or even a fear of an economic downturn, what it ends up becoming is it's an opportunity to do things that you've been meaning to do, but you kind of need an excuse. And when I was reading Mark's report here, that's what it sounded like too, is we could use a little time for that HomePod. Why don't we just delay it and say that it's part of this? And we could that person's not going to be replaced. We decided that we didn't really need them, and then they left, and now we can say it's because of the economy we're not replacing them. It's a good excuse.
Here's more boilerplate from Tim Cook. The company has reined in budgets across several teams and is now requiring senior vice president approval for more items. Doc, go ahead.
No, I was going to say one of the other things that happens, and nobody wants to tell the truth on this, but like Jason said, here's an opportunity to take some of the people in the company that are longer in the tooth, but aren't load-bearing walls, if you will. They do an excellent job. They do their work. I'm not saying they're bad employees, but they're not the load-bearing wall.
Sounds like me. I'm long in the tooth and not a load-bearing wall.
Leo,
you just hit me on the head.
Can you come see me when we're done here, Leo? We just a talk. Just a talk.
So you're not going to lose. You're not going to lose a whole department. But now, if I can use a slow market or a slow economy as a chance to get rid of them, you know what I can replace them with? two other fresh out of college, dying to have this job people. Not one, I can replace them with two people and still save money because of their increase every year. They've been there 15 years. Maybe they're coming in at 250. I can bring in two brand new guys at 80 apiece, saved almost 90 grand. And now I have a bigger team. And those other guys are hungry.
Also,
right?
I would say, what Mark Gurman reports is that they're doing things like the people who haven't kind of gotten with the program about returning to work 3 days a week. And they're apparently using this as one of those like, well, now we can say it's about the economy, but we're really just using it to lean on them and make sure that they either need to leave or they need to be in their seats 3 days a week. And that, again, what does that have to do with the economy? Well, I mean, it just means, hey, in this economy, do these things we want you to do that we have an excuse for now, and that's really what it is. So Doc Rock's right.
Yep. And there's also reason to, if we're going to guess and speculate, which is all we really can do. As long as we label it as such. It's one of the things that goes through my mind is that, okay, so we know that the HomePod people don't have a really strong voice. I'm sure they weren't begging to please back burner us for another year, assuming that these quotes are correct. But nonetheless, they did have time for their $3,000 VR goggles. So that team was able to make a persuasive argument with Tim Cook to, yes, keep us on track, even though there is some divisiveness within the company about whether or not we should actually be shipping this year. It's weird. Also, Apple's never been thought of as a company that overhires, if anything, to the absolute opposite. They're the famous company that, why aren't we getting this feature in macOS that we've been promised? Well, because iOS is a little bit late, and they pulled some engineers off of macOS to work on an iOS project. Say you can't hire extra people? Could, won't.
Yeah, it takes forever for Apple to hire anybody who's been through it or had a friend who's been through it.
Yeah.
Apple's a very slow hirer, and you end up in situations like this where all these other companies were fast hirers. They hired a lot of people, and now they're throwing them on the sacrificial altar. And Apple gets to, again, point to their past and say, see, look how responsible we are, which is that message that they're sending. We didn't hire willy-nilly, and so we don't need to lay people off. We'll just tighten our belts a little bit, and that'll save us some more money on top of the pile.